Good day, and welcome to the first edition of the Mark.com's webcast. This is a series of videos that I'll be doing going forward on the Mark's blog, which will take up the topics of business development, how to essentially operate a newly founded business, a new startup. The reason I've decided to do this on a weekly basis and why I'm also doing a webcast, albeit my face is really made for radio, is that I wanted to capture the reality, for the most part, an unedited reality of what happens on a week-to-week basis when you're starting up the company. And I think this has value because if I were to look back 2 to 3 years from now, at this particular period, I may have a particular vision or understanding of what really happened as opposed to the reality of the day-to-day occurrences and what it felt like and what lessons I was actually learning that at a later point may dissipate to a larger general lesson that I could potentially portray to others as well. But it's really just giving you a inside baseball feel, if you would, for a startup. And a good way of me to be able to not only part those lessons to others, but for me to be able to look back and glean some insight from them myself. So I mentioned that this is a week-to-week webcast. This week, of course, I am starting out by talking about what's happened up until this point. I'm 5 months into starting up ValTeo Tech. So there are certain things that certainly have happened already, and I want to give you guys an understanding of what steps I've already taken, some of the things that I've faced already, and so on and so forth. So with that, what I want to cover today is mainly what happened for the first 2 months, what preparation I went through in order to launch the company. What strategies or methods I wanted to use in order to tackle some of the challenges that I expected to see, and then what was reality, what actually happened, and how we were able to address some of those challenges, and then lastly, what I'm planning on doing this coming week, how I'm approaching some of the business development, leads development needs that the company has. So with that, let's jump in. So what happened for the first 2 months? The first 2 months of the company, I decided to do a lot of prep work. And by that, I mean, I wanted to get a feel for whether the services or the products that I had in mind were something that would be viable in the market. So what I did was buy a couple of tickets, airline tickets, and jumped on some planes and went and visited some past employers, some coworkers, especially a number of customers that I've dealt with in the past, mostly enterprise customers. And I pitched the idea to them, saying, hey, what do you think of this idea? What do you think about us providing software development, business consulting services around digital transformation, essentially around helping a company go through the process of transforming their paper-based manual process into a digital format end-to-end, whether it's for example, for a sales contract, for the data collection, the cleansing, the document generation, the contract generation, the different versioning that's involved around that, to actually capturing a signature, and then the execution or delivery of that contract as well, being able to track all the deliverables that are associated with it, whether that's project-based or product-based. So the response I got was overwhelmingly positive, and a number of them, of course, helped me hone in on exactly what we would offer. It resulted in the different packages that I initially put together. The crux of it, though, was that I was able to pitch some of my ideas that I thought would be quite good, quite viable, and realized that, in fact, they needed some fine-tuning. I expected that. I expected essentially that I would have some failure in the ideas right from the get-go, but I wanted to get that failure as quickly as possible. So that was the first 2 weeks. Essentially going around the country and getting everyone's opinion and fine-tuning the ideas. And then I spent the next 6 weeks putting together the branding, the strategy of, who are some of the customers that I'm going to go after, what type of market is this really, essentially what's the total addressable market, beginning to set up some of the strategic alliance partnership with companies such as K6 Partners, and essentially getting the preliminary work done so that once I went to market, if somebody said, for example, what are the services that you provide, what kind of value do you deliver, I could actually speak to it and provide some of the material that they would want to see in that initial sales set of steps, right? The challenges that I expected at that point was, well, there are probably going to be a number of companies, especially folks who are outside of my network, that are going to look at ValTeo Tech and say, who are you? I don't know you from Jack, right? I don't know what kind of experience you bring to the table, what value you actually bring to the table. I don't know what your history is. And, you don't have sufficient amount of history for us to be able to hire you. It's too big of a risk. So how would we address that? And the way I approached it was with, one, removing some of the risk by offering to provide some of the services at no fee up front. In other instances, it was a question of providing them with references for some of the work that we've done in the past as independent contractors for folks that I was bringing in into the company, as well as myself and working at, for example, at DocuSign or Conga or at Nudesic, where I'd gone through and helped a lot of customers with their digital transformations. Essentially, all of those folks acting as a reference saying, in fact, these guys can deliver. The second factor I thought was a non-issue was that, well, we're providing services, we're not providing products. So it's not a question of product support. In many instances, especially if it's business consulting, we're providing a roadmap and helping customers get up and running on ensuring that the products that they've bought, in fact, they're getting the value that they need to. So it's really processes that we're selling and execution of that process in order to get the full value of the licenses that they already own. So I figured we could probably speak to a lot of those objections and overcome them by providing the references, even providing some of the quotes from folks that I've worked with in the past, or the consultants that I was bringing on had worked with in the past. Now, what was reality? Oh, there's one other factor. The other factor is we also targeted, I thought that the best market was the mid-market customers. So these are customers that are probably 15 years or older. They've been in business for 15 years or longer. And the reason for 15 years thinking was that, well, these are probably folks that didn't start in the last few years, and so they're not fully digital. They likely have some manual process or paper-based process. And also, these are companies that are probably at a minimum 50 to 100 employees, but likely to about 2,000, 3,000 employees. But they've hit some sort of plateau in their growth. And that plateau is due to some of the process limitations that they've had. In other words, lack of scalability that exists within their business. So that I thought was a target. I created a number of different profiles, marketing profiles for the folks that we were going to go after, provide our services to. And then we made the announcement during the DocuSign Momentum on May 2nd. So May 1st, essentially, we went public. May 2nd, we were at DocuSign Momentum. We made the announcement about our partnership with DocuSign. We made our announcement about our partnership with K6 Partners. And got a lot of attention. Now, what was reality? The reality was that the attention that we got was actually from enterprise customers. So this was surprising to me because I had figured that enterprise customers already had one of the big 5 consulting firms doing some of this type of digital transformation work for them. So maybe there was an Accenture that was working on a larger digital transformation project, and they would potentially have the resources. What I found, though, was that the area, the niche that I've selected is, in fact, such a narrow niche that expertise doesn't exist with the Accentures of the world. Now, Accenture may bring in ValTeo Tech, for example, but it may also be that an enterprise customer brings in ValTeo Tech and then has us work with their existing consulting firm. Because Accenture, for example, may already be working on digital transformation, but they may not fully understand Conga or DocuSign, and understand the best practices around deployment of solutions using those particular products. So it's really that product knowledge on the technical side that helps. And then, of course, on the business consulting, on the adoption side, what I'm referring to as the business acceleration adoption packages, where we help customers after their release to continue to monitor and tweak the implementation. Even that didn't seem to be an area of expertise that some of the larger consulting firms are currently providing. And that's probably because these engagements aren't large enough for them to engage at that level. So the focus became enterprise customers. The challenge that we face now is that enterprise customers have a really long sales cycle. They are typically 3 to 6 months, if not longer. Certain cases, it may end up being 6 to 12 months. And that's not the type of runway that I would like to have in order to bootstrap a company. So I didn't necessarily focus on the area that I thought I would need to for marketing purposes, since these initial enterprise customers were taking up so much of our time, essentially, in ensuring that we provided them all the information they needed to make the decision, begin the planning process, go through the procurement process, so on and so forth. So what do I have to do now? The challenge now is, okay, I need to refocus back on that mid-market set of customers, because we need to bring in some customers that have significantly shorter sales cycle in order to show more revenue growth within the company, and essentially have the funds necessary for us to continue to help the enterprise customers as well. In other words, for us to continue to go through the sales cycle with the enterprise customers to prepare for the actual larger engagement that we'll get from them. So that's what I'm doing. I'm refocusing and putting together some presentations for the company where we're going to go to local businesses. We're going to be doing webcasts with the company to educate folks, for example, on what is digital transformation, what is digital transaction management, what are some best practices, for example, in financial services, wealth management, for HR, whatever the case may be. And also do the same for some of my alma mater, some business schools, where I know some of the business executives for the mid-market customers may be attending as well. Essentially be able to generate the leads necessary for us to begin to qualify some of them and go through the whole sales cycle. So that's the plan for this coming week. As a matter of fact, I'm putting together the first presentation of the education, if you would, for some of these sessions that I'll be delivering across the board, whether it's on the web or doing them for the various business groups locally. And then we'll begin to build up our leads pipeline to feed the sales cycle as well. So with that, I'm going to bring today's session to a close, and I'm hoping to hear back from you guys with any comments or even suggestions that you may have about how to continue to do these webcasts, as well as any other thoughts that you may have about what I've discussed so far or the strategy that I'm taking up with regard to the company growth as well. Thanks for listening. See you guys later.